the Dominican Republic. One set of policies here, another set of policies here. Much of it comes not only because of cutting, but also burning. Almost 30% of all the CO2 that each year in the atmosphere comes from forest. This is a time-lapse picture of Earth night over a 6-month period, showing the lights of the city in white and the burned forests and brush fires in red. The yellow areas are gas flares like these in Siberia. And that brings me to the second factor that has transformed the relationship to the Earth. The scientific technological evolution is a great blessing in that it has given us tremendous benefit in areas like medicine and communications. But the power we have also brings responsibility to think about its consequences. Here's a formula to think about. Habits plus old technology have predictable consequences. Old habits that are changed plus new technology can have dramatically altered consequences. Warfare with spears and bows and arrows and rifles and machine guns, that's one thing. But then new technology came. To think differently about war, because new technologies so completely transform the consequences of that old habit, we can't just mindlessly continue the patterns of the past. In the same way, we have always exploited the earth for sustenance. For most of our existence, we use relatively simple tools, the plow, tractor, but even tools like shovel now. Shovel used to be this. Shovels are getting bigger. Every year, they get more powerful. So our ability to have effect, in this case, the surface of the earth, is utterly transformed. You can say something about irrigation, which is a great thing. But when we divert a river without considering the consequences, then sometimes rivers no longer reach the sea. There were two rivers in Central Asia that were used by the former Soviet Union for irrigating cotton fields. The Aral Sea was fed by them. It used to be the fourth largest game sea in the world. When I went there, I saw this strange sight. An enormous fishing fleet resting in the sand. This is now that the fishing industry tried to build to get to the receding shoreline. Making mistakes in our dealings with nature can have big consequences now because technologies are often bigger than the human scale. When you put them all together, they've made us a force of nature. And this is also a political issue. This is the computer map of the world that shows the rate of contributions to global. In our country, we are responsible for all of South America, all of Africa, all of the Middle East, all of Asia, all of mine. Per capita average in Africa, India, China, Japan, EU, Russia, here's where we are. We way above everyone else. If you take population into account, it's a little bit different. China playing a bigger role, Europe, but we are still all the largest contributor. And so it is up to us to look at how we think about it, because our way of thinking is the third and final factor that transforms our relationship to the earth. If a frog jumps into a pot of boiling water, it's right out again because it senses danger. But the very same frog jumps into a pot of lukewarm water that is slowly brought to a boil, will just sit there and it won't move. It'll sit there even as the temperature continues to go up and up. It'll stay there until it's rescued. It's important to rescue the frog. The point that our collective nervous system is like a dog's nervous system. It takes a jolt sometimes before we become aware of danger. If it seems gradual, even if it really is happening quickly, we're capable of just sitting there and not responding and not reacting. I don't remember a time when I was a kid